Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
September 11th, 2001 is etched in history as one of the darkest and most shocking days. The devastating attacks in the heart of the United States not only rocked the nation, but also marked the onset of a global security crisis that reverberated across the world. The coordinated plane strikes on the World Trade Center towers in New York and the Pentagon claimed nearly 3,000 lives, ushering in a new era of terror. Behind these horrifying events stood Osama bin Laden, leader of Al-Qaeda, and a radical Islamist figure determined to wage war against the West. Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of Al-Qaeda, had declared a jihad against the Western world. Under his leadership, Al-Qaeda orchestrated numerous terror attacks, but none were as destructive or far-reaching as the 9/11 attacks. In the aftermath, the United States launched a global war on terror, targeting terrorist organizations worldwide. The top priority was to find and bring to justice the man behind the attacks, bin Laden. However, capturing or killing him proved to be an incredibly difficult and prolonged process. As the most wanted man on the planet, bin Laden evaded international security forces, hiding in some of the most remote and inaccessible regions of the world. Immediately after the September 11th attacks, the U.S. swiftly responded with a military intervention in Afghanistan. The primary goal of this campaign was to overthrow the Taliban regime and flush out Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden from his hiding place. The Taliban, with its close ties to Al-Qaeda, provided bin Laden with a safe haven, shielding him from capture. Despite intense bombardment and widespread military operations by U.S. forces, bin Laden managed to slip away into the rugged and mountainous terrain of Afghanistan. As U.S. forces advanced rapidly in Afghanistan, bin Laden fled to the difficult-to-control mountainous areas near the Pakistan border. During this time, U.S. intelligence agencies launched an extensive and meticulous manhunt to track bin Laden. However, misleading information, false leads, and the region's complex geography made the search incredibly challenging. Bin Laden was more than just a terrorist leader. He used an intricate network of couriers and sophisticated hiding tactics to stay off the radar. His decision to hide in Pakistan's rural and mountainous regions made it nearly impossible for U.S. and allied forces to locate him. The area was notorious for its political and geographical complexities, further complicating the search. Throughout his time in hiding, bin Laden sporadically released video and audio messages to boost the morale of his followers and prevent Al-Qaeda's disintegration. However, these communications did little to pinpoint his exact location. The U.S. launched a massive global manhunt, utilizing intelligence agencies, local informants, satellite images, and drones to track bin Laden's whereabouts. Yet the years-long chase seemed to lead only to dead ends. Thanks to his skill at hiding and the region's harsh conditions, bin Laden remained elusive for years, successfully evading the U.S. military's grasp. After years of pursuing various leads and employing different strategies, the breakthrough that would eventually lead to bin Laden's discovery came in 2010 when the CIA began tracking a key courier. The CIA had long been monitoring the movements of individuals close to bin Laden, and this particular courier's actions caught their attention. His frequent visits to a large fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, raised suspicion. The Abbottabad compound was unlike any ordinary residence. It was heavily secured with high walls, extensive security measures, and was almost completely isolated from the outside world. Electronic communications were rarely used, and the house had minimal connection to the outside. These factors heightened the CIA's suspicions, prompting them to intensify their surveillance of the compound. Satellite images, drones, and local informants were used to observe the area, and evidence slowly built up suggesting that the individual living there might be bin Laden. However, the CIA's information was still not definitive. There was no concrete proof that bin Laden was indeed living in the compound. This uncertainty put the U.S. government and intelligence community in a difficult position. If bin Laden was not in the compound, any operation could end in disaster. causing international embarrassment. On the other hand, if he was there, passing up this historic opportunity would be a significant failure. Faced with this dilemma, the decision to proceed with the operation became critical. By 2011, with the intelligence gathered, preparations for a possible raid accelerated. Believing the location to be correct, the US government entered an intense phase of planning to confirm the intelligence and determine the next steps. President Barack Obama held numerous meetings with his national security team and advisors during this period. At the heart of the decision-making process was the possibility of bringing a successful conclusion to years of counter-terrorism efforts and securing the prestige of the United States. However, the risk of failure loomed large. A failed operation could allow bin Laden to escape once again and deal a severe blow to both US military and diplomatic credibility. Conducting an operation within Pakistan's borders without its knowledge risked further straining the already tense relationship between the two countries. Weighing these risks, along with America's global power and counterterrorism objectives, President Obama made the final call. The operation would go forward. The unit chosen to carry out the mission was SEAL Team 6, one of the most elite special operations forces in the US Navy. This highly trained group of soldiers had spent years preparing for critical and dangerous missions, and they were ready for this task. The operation was named Operation Neptune's Spear, and the goal was clear: capture or kill Osama bin Laden. The planning phase took into account every detail, from the geographical terrain surrounding bin Laden's suspected compound to Pakistan's airspace and the structural characteristics of the house itself. Helicopters were specially modified for quiet flight capabilities to avoid detection. Every detail was meticulously planned to ensure both the success of the mission and the secrecy of the advanced technological equipment used. Diplomatic and military consequences were also thoroughly evaluated as part of the operation's planning, with all efforts made to minimize the risk of failure. On May 1, 2011, one of the most significant military operations in history began. Members of SEAL Team 6 boarded 2 Black Hawk helicopters en route to Abbottabad, Pakistan. As they crossed into Pakistani airspace, the helicopters advanced quietly, approaching bin Laden's suspected hideout without detection. In the White House Situation Room, President Barack Obama and his national security team closely monitored the mission in real time. The most pressing question on everyone's mind was bin Laden really inside the compound? The success of the operation hinged on the answer to this question, and the tension in the Situation Room mirrored the immense pressure felt by the soldiers on the ground. At around 3:30 a.m., the helicopters began their descent near bin Laden's compound. However, something unexpected occurred. One of the helicopters encountered a phenomenon known as vortex ring state, which disrupted the rotor's airflow and caused a loss of balance. As a result, the helicopter crashed into the compound's wall, severely damaging its tail rotor. Despite the situation, the pilot managed a skillful landing, but the helicopter was no longer usable. This unexpected development created uncertainty about whether the operation would succeed. However, SEAL Team 6 quickly regrouped and pressed forward with their mission, adhering to the meticulously crafted plan. While the helicopter crash had the potential to derail the operation, the team remained focused and determined to continue. Despite the helicopter crash, SEAL Team 6 moved swiftly, breaching the compound and advancing into bin Laden's hideout. Their first target was the guest house adjacent to the main building. Using explosives to force open the doors, the SEALs quickly neutralized the occupants. However, these initial individuals were not bin Laden. As they progressed deeper into the compound, the SEALs realized that not only terrorists, but also families were present. Although this added an unexpected human element to the operation, the SEAL team remained composed and focused. Their mission was clear and unchanged: to locate and neutralize bin Laden. At 3:37 a.m., SEAL Team 6 reached the 3rd floor of the compound and finally came face to face with Osama bin Laden. Dressed in the white tunic he was often seen wearing in propaganda videos, bin Laden was attempting to hide with female relatives. Although unarmed, the SEALs did not hesitate. They opened fire, gravely wounding bin Laden. As he tried to retreat into his room, the SEALs pursued him, pressing forward toward their objective. This critical moment signaled the end of a manhunt that had lasted for years. A brief struggle ensued in bin Laden's room, but SEAL Team 6 quickly stormed in and took control of the situation. Bin Laden was neutralized in his room and died within minutes. This moment marked the symbolic end of a long and grueling global war on terror. SEAL Team 6 secured bin Laden's body and completed the mission successfully. Despite the challenges faced during the operation, the team accomplished their goal, making this mission a historic achievement in counter-terrorism. Bin Laden's death represented a pivotal turning point in the fight against global terrorism. Bin Laden's body was flown to a U.S. aircraft carrier, where it was buried at sea in accordance with Islamic traditions. The swift burial, following religious rites, symbolized the complete elimination of bin Laden's physical presence. However, his death was just one chapter in the broader global fight against terrorism. While the U.S. had struck a significant blow to Al-Qaeda, the war on terror remained a long and complex challenge. In conclusion, the killing of Osama bin Laden stands as one of the most significant military achievements in American history. Yet it did not mark the final victory in the fight against terrorism. The ongoing presence and threats of terrorism underscored the complexity, difficulty, and long-term nature of this struggle. The threat the U.S. and the world continued to face showed that the pursuit of peace and security was far from over.